Greetings to everyone on the second video. My name is Jimmy, and now we will have another story topic. Thank you for your support. Story 1 from user Tabascos42. I'm 28 and live with my mother. I haven't worked in 3 years. My mom pays for all of my room and board. For spending money, I receive checks from Social Security. The twist is, I'm dying of cancer. I had to leave my job that I loved as a chief at a fine dining restaurant because of risk of infection after I had been diagnosed for a year. Now, after 4 years of chemotherapy, radiation, and a bone marrow transplant, all of which did nothing to help me, and actually did quite a bit of harm, I am too weak, sick, and susceptible to infection that I can't even get a menial desk job. I absolutely hate it. I feel useless. I have always had a strong work ethic, and now feel I contribute nothing to society. My mother is an absolute godsend. She is there to take me to any medical appointment and supplies all my needs like housing, food, cable. Without her, I don't know what I would do. The check I get from SS is nothing and wouldn't even cover rent, let alone any of the medical bills. And I'm lucky I even get that I had actually paid taxes enough before I got sick that I was able to withdraw SS. I had been working since 13 and paying income tax consistently since at least 15. Most of the check goes to paying off medical bills that seem to just never go away, and what's left, I'll get a new video game. My daily life is extremely boring. When I'm feeling healthy enough, I may go to the grocery store and get stuff for dinner. I'll then have to take a break because I'm tired from that small activity. If I'm really feeling good, I'll even make dinner. If it's been a while since I've gotten blood, that's when I feel really bad on those days. I'll look at Reddit on the couch. And if I get a burst of energy, I may play video games. On bad days, there's a good chance I won't even get out of bed. Sorry for leaving this really long, depressing post. I know it really wasn't what you were looking for, but it felt good to vent a little. Since it's late, hopefully, it'll get buried. Edit. Thank you everyone for the kind words. This is the first time I've posted anything about my predicament, and I'm absolutely floored by the overwhelming feedback. Thank you. This encourages me to make more comments to Reddit. Not ones about cancer, but just whatever. This really lifted my spirits and made me realize I need this extra type of socialization. Thank you. P.S. Just to clarify from some of your posts, I am very vocal with my mother of how much I love her and appreciate every small and big thing she does for me. I don't know what I would do without her, and am constantly giving her hugs and saying I love you or thank you. Story 2 from user NeoShaman. I recently turned 30. I am currently on disability due to end-stage renal failure. I'm awaiting a transplant and took a medical leave from my MA program in Curriculum and Instruction, teaching digital, multimedia, and technology. Ideally, based on new blood work and tests, I can have a transplant sometime late this fall. However, I've been on leave for the past year doing hemodialysis for 10 months and recently switching to peritoneal dialysis at home. So I'm in this state of limbo, unable to finish my program other than read extra materials or follow some lectures. But I can't do the distance learning as I don't qualify. In my spare time, I read quite a bit, play video games, watch movies, writing, and I started working on some stop-motion and diorama robot films. I'm also searching for a new puppy. I've developed some kind of depression due to a few factors. One from the loss of my first transplant kidney around this time last year, and my girlfriend leaving me a week before surgery, while I was rejecting the last organ and nearly died. Seizures, pulmonary edema, and some other complications. Anyway, here I am. Story 3 from user Glock Tartendel. I'm 25 and I've been homeless since March when I lost my job. I never had a college degree, never had the money for college, and you'd be surprised how many loans and grants you get rejected for. Maybe that's just my luck. Anyways, what I do is when I wake up, I usually take a dip in the canal for a somewhat clean bath. Then I drive or push my car to Starbucks, where I use their free Wi-Fi to fill out job applications, make calls, and usually get nothing back. Sometimes the bittersweet lie of, "We'll call you back later today." Then the call never comes and I start to slip back into depression, do small jobs for friends and acquaintances. mostly landscaping stuff or taxi services. If I don't have any jobs lined up or any money and I'm depressed enough to not be completely overcome by shame, I go to the gas station and hold up a sign, pretty much begging for money. Then if I have absolutely nothing to do or lined up, I go use the Starbucks Wi-Fi for Reddit and YouTube. Then I wrap everything up when the store starts to close down. I drive my car to somewhere safe. Most of the time, nowhere's really safe. And put the tire iron by my foot just in case someone tries to break into my car while I'm in it. Then I go to sleep. Or honestly, just cry until I pass out. And then rinse and repeat. Sometimes, if I have the gas money to do it, I go do stand-up comedy so I can feel normal again. Other than that, rinse, repeat, and get caught up in the thought process of wanting to live another day and asking myself, is it worth going another day? Story 4 from user Esther Harsham. This might not be quite what you have in mind, given that it is a job, but enough people treat it like I'm a perennial slacker that I figure it probably counts. I write smut for a living, but I find that if I write more than about 4,000 words a day on a regular basis, I get burned out. That means I'm limited to about 2 hours of work a day, plus an hour or so once a week for basic admin. Other than that, my time is my own. As for what I do on my off time, it's pretty much a case of trying to keep myself occupied. That means a lot of learning stuff, Duolingo for languages, and I've just started Code Academy, and occasional attempts at working out that never seem to stick. I try not to waste too much time online, which means limiting myself when it comes to sleep around on the internet. Thank you, Leech Block. And avoiding binge-watching shows during the day. Sometimes I cook, or more often, if there's a new recipe I've been wanting to try, I'll do all the prep work before my boyfriend gets home from work, and then I'll throw it on to cook at around 8 p.m. There's not a lot in the way of housework, 2 people, small flat, kind of neat to begin with, so I mostly spend my time reading. I'm a big believer that the best way to become a good writer is to read all kinds of books, good or bad, in any and all genres. So at about a novel a day, that involves a lot of trips to the library. Sometimes I'll read there. Sometimes I'll go to the park and find a bench for an hour or so. Sometimes I'll stop in at the pub at the bottom of my street and have a beer and a sandwich for lunch and read there. Basically, it's just a way to get myself out of the house so I don't go completely stir-crazy. Still, it's not always ideal. The fact that I don't work for longer than about 2 hours means that I never feel comfortable taking full days off. The last day I didn't write at all, according to my chart, was in March when I had a wedding to go to, and we stayed overnight. Which means that 1, everything kind of blurs into one seamless pattern. And 2, I get very stressed if I don't make time to do at least something, or if it just isn't coming for whatever reason. The money's okay. Although it's sometimes hard to motivate yourself when there's no immediate punishment for not working. I have a pretty large back catalog and a bunch of books in storage waiting to be put up after the summer slump, so I'm pretty set if I want to take time off whenever I choose. I just know it's very difficult to get back into the swing of things afterwards. I'm convinced that if I could double my word count, I'd be making really good money. Well, I'd assume double what I'm making now, and possibly more. And it would still leave me with a censored of free time on my hands. But the burnout is a killer. That said, I wouldn't go back to an office job for all the money in the world. Story 5 from user Krusenek. 24, turning 25. I have a master's and was working until last year. Now I'm a house husband, but not by choice. Made a lot of sacrifices in my career, but it is probably worth it in the long run since my wife will make way more than what I can make. I enjoy doing housework and supporting my wife. I especially love cooking, but there's so much social stigma around non-working husbands. It's pretty trash. When I used to work, I had no time for life. Now all I have is life and no work. There is never a good balance, and for some reason, the mind gets pretty depressing when people don't work. Edit. This ended up getting a lot of replies which I've never experienced before. To address some common questions asked, my master's was in the biotechnology area. My undergrad was biochemistry and biomedical sciences. I worked in the pharmaceutical industry before I left the big city to move with my then fiancée, now wife, to a small town for her medical residency. There's very little to no opportunity for my field, as they're mostly in the big cities, and the commute is rather impossible. I don't resent my wife in any way. I love her with all my heart, and I will continue to do anything I can to support her career. I try to keep myself busy. I drive her to and from work every day. She is terrified of driving, although one might think saving patience might be scarier. Other than that, groceries, cooking, cleaning, misky chores, and some side hobbies. I also worked on some startups that didn't go very far, but it was fun to pursue. It's a little sad that my undergrad and master's education aren't used, but I think it's still the better decision to make. Lastly, I want to thank everyone for the supportive comments, messages. Hearing this from strangers is quite uplifting. Story 6 from user The Real Shady Shady. I'm my sister's caretaker, which is a full-time job that I don't get paid for. My sister is in the disability process, and we've been working with the state and a disability advocate for 6+ months, trying to figure out how to either get her a personal care assistant so I can find work, or to get paid for being her caretaker. But so far, no dice. During the day, I make sure my sister takes her meds, eats, gets to her apps. I set apps up for her, research our resources and things like that. She's schizophrenic and has hypothyroidism and an abnormality in her white blood cell count, so she gets infections easy, and she has a lessened ability to fight them, so I have to keep the place clean for her, which can be daunting. To sustain us, I do whatever I can to make money whenever I can. I clean houses, cut hair, babysit, house sit, help people move, yard work, whatever someone is willing to pay me to do. I pick up any free stuff I can sell, and my favorite way to make money is to refurbish furniture. I'm very lucky to have the friends I do because we have no family. And without my friends giving me things to sell, furniture to flip and throwing work my way, we'd be screwed. To pay our rent, I do work on the house for the landlord. Our house has a lot of things that aren't up to code, and a lot of unwise, sloppy construction mistakes. Again, I'm very lucky for the friends I have. My best friend is an electrical engineer and former electrician, and he helped me rewire the garage last month. Another good friend is a finishing and framing carpenter who has helped me do things like install an exhaust fan and fix the drywall and patch leaks in the basement. I work my back off all day every day just to scrape by, but I make sure I squeeze in time to do what makes me happy, somehow, some way. For example, I found a plastic spinning multicolored light thing and put it up in our tiny shed and made a rave cave to listen to music and smoke a bowl at the end of the day. It's ridiculous and hilarious that I'm damn near 30 and turning a 5 on 8-foot shed into a one-person dance club nightly. And somehow it makes the hand we've been dealt seem like it's not so bad. Story 7 from user deleted. Here's a summary of my recent time spent unemployed after college. I just received a job after 6 months of unemployment, and I start next week. Nothing remarkable happened, but it feels good to reflect after coming out the other side with a position. I spent the first month getting a few certifications I thought useful to my job search, hazmat, first aid. That probably shouldn't have taken a month, but I had just graduated and was happy to take things slow. The next 2.5 months, I treated my unemployment like a job. I tried to wake up early and spend a good 8 hours applying to positions, editing my resume and calling businesses. Started off well, but I think it ultimately burned me out. I wasn't getting calls back and couldn't find many positions I was qualified for. My girlfriend, who found a job straight out of college, supported us, and the guilt of not adding to the mix was getting to me. After the 2.5-month job search bender, I was losing my mind, so I decided to take it slow for a little bit. Started to only job search for 3 hours in the morning, then take a break and do something active and fun before or after lunch, and then returning to do a couple more hours. I ended up playing a shit ton of disc golf over the following months and got pretty good. My overall outlook of myself and my unemployment got a lot better at this time. This was also the time I got my first interview, which didn't go great but didn't go awful either. I left thinking it went well, And now, looking back after so many other interviews, I just have to laugh at how unpolished I was. Interviewing is really something you need to practice. There's a big difference between reciting answers to questions you thought might be coming and having an intelligent and open discourse with your interviewer. The last month and a half was where everything came into place. I was getting calls for interview with a few companies I had recently applied to, and some companies I had applied to in those early months had reached out to me. I was eventually hired by the company in which I had my first bad interview after 2 more exceedingly better ones this last month. Thanks to everyone who was here today. I was glad to see you all. See you tomorrow in new videos. Bye-bye.